Good evening. Thank you for coming this evening. I want to open the meeting tonight. If we could all stand and pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Commissioner Baldini.
Here.
Commissioner Kimbenzi.
Here.
Commissioner Connolly.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Campana.
Here.
And Mayor Coyne.
Here. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is any note of agenda changes. Is there? Seeing none, a motion appropriate would be to approve the agenda. Commissioner Campana.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or excuse me, yes, okay.
Yes.
And opposed, no, okay. I just learned that it says in the thing you're supposed to say yes, so my apologies. Announcements. The next meeting of the City Commission in December will be next Monday because of the Christmas holidays, so I just wanted to have people be aware of that. Also this Thursday, we're going to have a work session with the Brownfield Development Authority, and that's a public meeting, so if you're, well, that's at 5:15, I believe, in room 103. And also we have the traditional vacancies for committees and boards, and you're going to see on tonight's agenda that we're going to appoint a committee to work on methods to try to improve the recruitment for board members. It's critical in the city to have people serve, and I just mentioned a few boards that we really need people on. The Aging Services Committee, we need 4 members. Arts and Culture, we need 2. The Harbor Advisory, we need 3. The Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board, we need 2. And Parks and Rec, we need 2. Peter White Public Library, we need 1. And the Planning Commission needs 3 people, which is an extremely important vacancy gap there. And the Parking Traffic Advisory Committee, we need 4. And there are other committees, but these are the critical, very underserved ones, and we would love to have people put in their application, and the application form is online, so appreciate that. The first thing we have on the agenda is a presentation of the UP Children's Youth Leadership Award, and tonight we're honoring Jalen Close. Jalen, could you come up to the podium right there? Thank you. Jalen, we are very honored to represent the city, and on behalf of all the people in the city, to honor you as a Youth Leadership Award member of the Children's Museum. And we're very happy to have you here. And I asked you earlier if you would like to speak, and do you have a few words you'd like to say? Mm-hmm. Thank you. This is not as easy as it looks, is it? No, okay. Well, now, you happen to have a very person with you who talks a lot, okay? And Jim will maybe Jim will loosen you up just a little bit, and he always has something nice to say about you, okay? And don't worry, if that happens, and I've been there too, where it's just like, oh man, I can't talk. So, but he never has a problem. And I have to, I also have to say that I apologize, we spelled your name wrong, and because I am mayor, it's his fault because he didn't write it clearly. So we'll get you a new certificate. But Jim, have any comments?
I wanted to present Jalen to you. She came early this year, and the only skeptic in the family was Mother over there, wondering whether this was the right thing for Jalen, but she's fit right in. It coincided with us doing a Friday afternoon training with Child and Family Services. And so Jalen's a regular at that. but also she's started working on a Coder Dojo program that we have with the university and the Intermediate School District. She is the star of that program, and it's about stellar thinking outside the box. And so I'm hoping on Wednesday we start a program about space exploration and changing one of the exhibits. And the outcome will be that youngsters make things for sale in our store again, another wave of kid business. I know that Jalen's going to think of good ideas for things to sell and make, but this is a wonderful thinker.
Thank you, Jalen, and congratulations. And you can take this with you, but we'll get you one with your real name on it, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is a presentation by the Traffic Parking Advisory Committee. And Mr. Feather, would you come forward? Thank you.
Thank you. We currently have 4 vacancies, and we would love to have more members join. Bill Larch is here, Captain Rebolt is here in the audience. We started the year with 5 members, and Johnny DePietro is leaving us for bigger and better things. But I encourage anyone out there who's interested to join. Our committee was established in 1978 by Commission Action, and we're tasked with representing the residents and businesses of Marquette. And we have 12 meetings a year. We once a month for about an hour. It's a pretty easy commitment, and we have about a 90% attendance rate. Our mission is to advise the Marquette City Commission on matters relating to parking and traffic flows and patterns. And this year, we added Complete Streets to our mission, and that was done through the City Commission Action, a subcommittee. And so that being new, I just wanted to say a few things about Complete Streets. Complete Streets are a design approach that requires streets to be planned, designed, operated, and maintained to enable safe, convenient, and comfortable travel and access for users of all ages and abilities, regardless of their mode of transportation. And this kind of comes after a century of designing for cars only, cars exclusively, and not really considering the pedestrians and bikers and other users as equal users of the streets. Considerations that go along with Complete Streets are things we're starting to see already in the city, accommodating for pedestrians. You've probably seen the yield to pedestrian signs. Also remarking overly wide streets by adding bike lanes. And also implementing professional recommendations for redesign. We've had professionals come in and look at the 3rd Street corridor and also the Barriga Avenue corridor to make that more of a Complete Streets design. Some other considerations are better accommodating winter pedestrians. You'll notice our crews are really great at plowing the streets, but many of the sidewalks, usually it goes a couple of days, even the ones that we do plow, before they get covered. And our committee would like to see that become more of a priority, and maybe even taking on more sidewalks into our current routes. Also looking at safer and friendlier connectivity across US 41 for cyclists and pedestrians. There really aren't a lot of ways across, and one of the better ways across is McClellan Avenue, which is, if you've ever tried it on a bike or on foot, it's a pretty scary crossing. This past year, we've had some accomplishments. Individuals come to us. We've had 8 individuals come to us with specific issues. Most commonly is with a single parking spot or two, a designation that needed to be changed, either through adding a sign, changing a sign, and those are things that we've been able to help with. The most visible of those types of accomplishments was removing obsolete loading zones around Graverette. to create more parking spaces. We've had a few groups come in asking for more of the yield to pedestrian signs. The current MGH site has asked for permission to install some. And then also we've had a runners group come in and ask for some of them crossing at bike paths, crossing the streets. We also had a Complete Streets presenter, Brad Newman, come to our March meeting and do a presentation for us. Another interesting accomplishment, last year with the redesign of East Washington, we noticed that plow trucks weren't able to get through as the snow piles would build up along the side, and cars would park closer and closer to the middle. The lane would shrink and the plow couldn't get through. And we looked at a variety of ways to solve that problem. And the solution we've come up with is to eliminate parking there on the left side of the street, which is 3 parking spots during the plow season so that the plow can get through regularly. One of our big goals is improving safety, and we're looking at some crash data here. You can see that the intersection with the most crashes is Washington and McClellan Avenue. And even without seeing that data, this is the intersection that most people talk about when they talk about traffic problems in the city. And it's one that we would really like to see looked at professionally to see if we can redesign it to improve the safety of it. One of the issues is not just the car crashes that are in the data, but also that our city bike path crosses this, as well as the Iron Ore Heritage Trail, and they both cross in 2 different directions, and it's a 5-lane wide, very busy street to cross. And we're wondering about ways that maybe we can improve this design. And further east on Washington, there's been some narrowing in the past that has worked pretty well, and we're wondering if maybe some narrowing on Washington there might be a solution to that problem. Looking at the bigger piece of this sort of busy traffic congestion, comparing different street designs, there on the left you have the grid pattern that the east side neighborhoods have. And when you have that type of pattern, you don't need any 5-lane highways because there are so many ways for cars to go. But as you get into more disconnected designs, it forces people onto common arteries, and those arteries need to be big to accommodate the traffic. And so one sort of bigger solution is to look at that design and see how we can create more connectivity so there's more options so that everyone's not funneled through those same busy intersections. Looking at that issue, considering hospital planning, with the new site, considering putting in a roundabout, and asking questions, how can we offer alternatives to that intersection, that very busy intersection? Looking at Washington Street, the only ways south are McClellan and 7th Street, and there's nothing in between there. And so those 2 intersections tend to be pretty busy. And we would ask that we look at solutions to connect Washington down to Baraga and maybe the new roundabout, so that there's another alternative through there and we can relieve the congestion at those intersections. So we have 5 main recommendations. That first one I just mentioned, studying reconfigurations for Washington and McClellan. The second one, considering an additional connection street between Washington and Baraga near the hospital. Third is to consider lane improvements at the Marquette Food Co-op entry on Washington, where traffic heading east often gets backed up when people are trying to turn left into the co-op. And perhaps just changing the lane designation might allow cars to flow through that better. Fourth, consider adding left turn lanes on 3rd Street at the Hewitt intersection, and maybe having changing the signaling there as well to allow left turn. And fifth, continuing to add new bike lanes as much as possible. Do you have any questions or comments for me?
Thank you, Jacob. Very good. I must compliment you on the fine presentation. The pictures were just great and a lot of work. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Commissioner Cambenzi?
Well, at our last meeting, we had two gentlemen that were really into complete streets, and they wanted us to create a bikeability, walkability committee, and we said, please join one of our other ones. And first thinking planning commission, but now maybe this might be the one where they could have the most input. So I'm not sure if we still have their names, but that would be a good connection, I guess, seeing the vacancies. The other thing, the co-op, that was one I noticed recently, so I'm glad your committee's on that. And just two other thoughts, like you said, I noticed a lot more people walking, sidewalk shoveling, especially if you live around a school or a place where people walk a lot. If you can do your part, there's some elderly people on my street. There's also some college rentals. It's a huge difference being able to walk a whole block. And if you are someone that has snow removal or a snow blower, if you help your neighbor out, it takes an extra 5 minutes. But it really does help the community who use those streets a lot. So thank you. It was a great report, and it looks like you don't need much direction because you're already solving a lot of the problems. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Campana?
Jacob, I think your group's been responsible for some really nice and important changes in the city. I particularly like the crossing signs and the post along Lakeshore Boulevard along the bike path, so cars don't hit the runners, bikers. So I think the things you are doing, I've seen over the years, you've made some nice improvements that have made the streets safer. So I hope you can continue to do that. Thank you.
Anyone further? Excuse me. Anyone further?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Connolly. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you for the work that you do. The pedestrian yield signs along Lakeshore Boulevard have been very effective in the summertime for slowing down traffic and making it safer for particularly our guests who come into town and cross from a restaurant down into the park. I also commend your efforts for trying to improve the bike path crossing across McClellan at Washington. I have been almost taken out a number of times by people who are turning right, particularly on red. So any efforts that you can undertake to improve the safety of that would be appreciated. As that bike path becomes better and better with the R&R Heritage Trail, we're going to see more and more people using that crossing. So thank you again.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Commissioner Baldini.
I just have, I think another thing that is increasing, the good news, bad news sort of situation, is the number of bikers in the winter has gone up significantly. I don't know if there's any data on it, but it's also presented some new additional problems. As you're probably well aware of, the bike paths or the lanes sort of get covered up with snow, and we're going to have to make, I think, the citizens much more aware, to be cautious, to keep an eye out, and also to ask the bikers to wear more reflective clothing and also be cautious for that. Because in the winter, we really, maybe it's a generational thing. You don't expect a lot of bikes out in the winter, but now with the new equipment, there's an opportunity to have them. So,
anyone else wishing to speak? Okay. Well, Jacob, thank you very much. And after the announcement of how many vacancies we have, I think your presentation really shows the quality of work that volunteer citizens do in advising the commission. So I would hope that would encourage people to say, there's you'd think, well, who cares? But look at all the things you've accomplished, and it is very, very important. So thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation and your committee's work. Thanks. The next item is the Sister City Advisory Committee, and John Barsh, are you? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sure. Go?
You bet.
All right, thanks. So we just have a title slide here, so we'll click forward. That should be 2014, my mistake. The 2014 membership, see, I sent this out to the committee too, and they didn't give me the feedback, and they're sitting right there. No edits.
We'll blame it on Jim from the Children's Museum. Okay?
Jim sounds good. Yeah, it's Jim's fault. Should say 2014 membership. For the period of 2014, I've been the chairperson. Started right early at the end of 2013. Linda Berry was serving as co-chair for a while until her term expired, and that would be the 3 consecutive terms that, is it 2 or 3, you're allowed to have, and she could no longer serve. But she's been functionally serving the committee anyway by showing up as a member of the public. Devin's been secretary, and Bill came back to us from having been on the committee for several years over the years. As a long-term member, but he termed out and had to take a year off per the rules of the city. So he's back. And then we have a lot of involvement with Paulette Lindbergh and Marty Eskelinen, and those Finnish names are a little tough for me at times. And then Tina meets with us to give a perspective and rules of the city. And it's been a really good year. So we actually, speaking of openings, we have 6. It's a committee of 9, but I think we discussed at the end of 2013 about how maybe that wouldn't be the best time to bring in new membership, because as those of you who are familiar with Sister City stuff, in the recent year we've been really working hard to transform the function of the committee and develop a nonprofit organization that will hopefully take over a lot of what this committee had been doing, and well, at the end of this presentation we can discuss what that means for the actual city committee. And there's been numerous others, a long list of citizens of Marquette and the surrounding communities that have been involved, too numerous to name, but in the the delegation visits, the incoming and outgoing visits, a lot of people are involved. We had 10 meetings scheduled, and 1 was canceled due to the lack of quorum. So we've been holding our meetings, and the minutes do get to your site, and they're up there for anybody who's interested to check out what we've been up to. This committee was officially established in 1989 to advise the City Commission on issues related to sister cities and the activities we engage in with our sister cities. The sister city relationships existed prior to that, but the committee was born to really solidify the relationship between the city of Marquette proper and the sister city activities. Since that time, this committee has been doing sister city stuff, facilitating, recording, evaluating cultural exchanges, and that includes both inviting members of our sister cities to come to our city and also sending members of the city of Marquette out to the sister cities to learn about and develop relationships with the citizens of our sister cities. The sister cities are Higashiomi, Japan, and Kayani, Finland at this time. So I bolded a couple of letters. I don't want to read the whole vision to you, but really it's kind of been from the start, as President Eisenhower originally intended. It's been a program to develop multicultural relationships between the U.S. and cities abroad to help facilitate an idea of global citizenship, where we care about, appreciate, understand, and really engage in the diverse aspects of other cultures, and developing relationships and friendships with members of our sister cities is how we do that. We, as a committee, actually sort of carry out the activities. It's kind of, and this is where, for those who aren't familiar with sort of the issue that arises and the reason why we're developing the 501c3, the committee members have been doing the work of the sister city programs as opposed to advising the city council, who would then maybe talk to the Marquette Arts and Culture Department, who would then engage in the business activities of the sister city exchanges. So that work is all done by the volunteers and the committee itself. So that's why it sort of is making sense that we develop the nonprofit. But sort of before I get ahead of myself, our goals as a committee and the goals of the new nonprofit essentially are to organize and facilitate the incoming and outgoing delegation exchange programs. We also, through that, are really interested in those friendships, those relationships that are born between people in our sister cities and the people of our cities, so that there's a mutual appreciation, understanding, and coexistence on this becoming smaller and smaller planet Earth. We organize and facilitate the Artist Exchange Program as well, which includes us sending artists from our area to Japan to show them the art that they do and share with them that part of our culture. And also on the exchange, the other end, we bring artists from Japan and they do art exhibitions in our community and offer the opportunity to buy that art and fund the program. And it's really been pretty neat, and we have had a good time doing that. We also, just around the area, we put on programs where we will celebrate the cultures that we're learning about, just with our own citizens, and maybe not, the ones that come back from Japan will share what they've learned, and we'll have a ceremony and session at the public library or something to that extent, which is just some cultural enrichment for Marquette. And lastly, we could have as a goal encouraging the development of other potential sister city relationships, which is how the relationship with Kayani came to be after a long-term existing relationship with Higashiomi, Japan. Some members really kind of took the long-term heritage that we have around here with Finnish culture and developed a relationship with Kayani. And that could potentially happen for some city in Italy if folks from Ishpeming want to come down and work on that with us. So this past year we coordinated a visit for 9 delegates from Higashiomi. That was in July to August. They stayed, each delegate stayed with a host family, which therein lies a whole lot of volunteer involvement in the community. There's their faces, the Japanese folks anyway. And it's important to mention that in this particular visit, the mayor of Higashiomi came, as well as the chairman of their assembly and the manager of their planning division, which was significant because at the time, on their side, they were thinking about maybe cutting back and not coming back as often, or not holding this relationship as strong. And so we really worked with them to solidify this relationship with Marquette and to keep it strong. And I think we successfully got commitment from their mayor that it's an important relationship, and he understands the history and wants to keep it going the way we were with doing things every year with them. So that was really neat. And there's a list of the other kinds of folks that come, so just members of their city. Some highlights of a visit like this one, this time it included, we have a welcome ceremony. It's really neat when they all show up at the airport. I'll show you a few pictures I'll click through in a minute, but just to kind of roll through what the visit's like. We welcome them at this airport and have quite a ceremony. It's really formal. Then we invite you folks and them to the Peter White Library for a reception where they can meet some commissioners and have kind of an official welcome ceremony, the exchange of gifts. And many of you would remember that event. It was a really good time. They tour the city, they tour the History Museum, they got to see new educational technologies that we're using at NMU in the Jamrich building that was just finished. They walked the Heritage Trail, they also biked it a bit. They took a boat out in Lower Harbor, they visited Hot Plate and did some pottery, which I should mention is a pottery program here in town that sort of developed after Sue Kensington went on one of these delegation visits and met with with Japanese potter and did some workshop style learning over there and brought it back, and hey, now we've got a really cool small business. So that's just some extra history for you about how the sister cities have had an effect on Marquette. There's lots of examples of that, but that's just the one that came to mind because it's on the screen. Sugarloaf, we hiked that and walked down the backside to Wetmore. They visited the brewery, and then we didn't tell them ahead of time, but outside the brewery was the pedal cruiser waiting for them to ride back to the actual Black Rock's tasting location, and we shared some beer, had a good time. Then Dan Oja and June Parsons opened up their home out on the basin, and we had a really cool sayonara party, a farewell party, and of course, one of the major highlights for everyone involved is the time that the individuals spend with their host families. I mean, you really develop some serious interpersonal relationships that nearly always includes tears at the airport when you have to say goodbye, and hopefully we can visit you and please come back kind of stuff. I have to mention that these kind of visits wouldn't be possible without interpreters from our community like Tomoko Inoue and Kaio Miwa and Dr. Mitsutoshi Oba from NMU. So here's a picture from the airport. There's a line of the Marquette folks on this side. I guess that would be the left side of the screen, and then the right side has folks from, has some of our people there because that's the formal front of the line, but then the Japanese folks would be all lined up across from their host families. So we're meeting for the first time, and it's a pretty neat ceremony. This was at the Peter White Library. It was a very well-attended event where we shared a little culture in both directions, gave some gifts, and it was a really neat thing. The Lake Superior Youth Theater folks did some songs, and they sang us a song in Japanese, and we learned about their city, and it was really kind of nice. Here's some gift exchanging. Look, you're famous now, Devin. This was part of that solidification of the relationship with the city. I guess it's important to note that we have a member of our community, Price Durfelt, who was basically the founder of this relationship with Higashiomi, Japan. And so they invited the mayor of Higashiomi over and talked about the history and shared some experiences. And that meeting may have been very important in how the relationship is now solid for a long time, I think, as long as Mayor Ogura is in charge, anyhow. So there they are at the top of Sugarloaf, having a good time with us. At this point, the three from the city of Higashiomi's, the city officials had to leave early, so they didn't get to go on the hike. And down there, out on the rocks at the end of the hike, there's the brewery. Here's the pedal cruiser, having a good time, pedaling away, singing songs in English, sharing some fun, and at the beer tasting. Now, I shared this one. Most folks didn't go on this. I'm on a first-name basis with my mailman, like a lot of you probably are in the city of Marquette. And so Paul invited us. This is the postmaster's desk, and Seiji's a postal worker in Japan, so he was pretty thrilled to sit at the postmaster's desk and pretend to be making important phone calls. Those are my children. And we went out to the cabin to have some good times. I mean, this is what these visits are about. Not so much the ceremony, but the relationships that people are developing between these two cities, which is why I kind of went strong on that. We're having a good time cooking food with our guest from Japan. And there he is, all burnt out after the week. In the hammock, like any good camper does. So another accomplishment from the past year. So that's the delegation visit, and you can ask more questions. We can share more with you. But another thing that we worked on was retaining the Sister City Scholarship Program, where we bring a new college student who's a member of the city of Higashiomi to NMU, and they get pretty much the best scholarship NMU gives out. So our presidential scholarship is a full ride, full housing, everything. Well, we give this with the international level costs to a person from our sister city. And that was really on the chopping block, and we worked hard to retain that piece of our program. And here's just a list of, right now we've got Konomi at NMU. And Erica was our outgoing, and we've been approved for another year of funding, but we still have to meet and determine who that will be. So really what happened is the selection process got moved from the Sister City Advisory Committee, which is what's been doing it, and the members involved in that committee, to an NMU committee who's doing the selection, which is more proper because the NMU is the one who's giving the money away. So I happen to sit on that committee as well, working at NMU, and we have other members of the community involved, like Paulette, I think, sits on that committee, but it's run by our international programs director at NMU. So it makes a little bit more sense that we'd have a say in which one gets selected at the university. We the university, not we the community. I got a lot of hats in this game because I'm also on the new nonprofit, so don't mind if I get confused here when I'm talking about who we is. And then probably most interesting to those of you who are working hard with us, in being patient with us as we work towards this nonprofit, is that we've been working all year to kind of get the nonprofit organized. The name has been determined to be Marquette Area Sister Cities Partnership. We acquired the state of Michigan nonprofit status through some paperwork. We've had 3 official, this is we, the Marquette Area Sister Cities Partnership. We had, the partnership has had 3 official board meetings now. The partnership has 13 board members, which is really kind of neat, and you know, it shows you how we've been struggling to have committee members on the city committee for years that I've been involved, probably 7-8 years now I've been involved with that, and we can't get committee members for the city committee, but we make it a nonprofit, and now you get to be a board member, and now we've got 13 people involved. Who knew? I don't know what it is, but it works. And I think maybe it's restrictions on where you're from, too, because we've got some people from, like, Township who can be on our board, and our board as in the Sister City Nonprofit Partnership. So that's really neat. And then the paperwork for the 501c3 is just about finished. We went over some last drafts at the last partnership meeting. Finally, the partnership, in conjunction with the city committee, are really working hard preparing a formal proposal to you guys about how we want to keep the collaboration with the city proper as strong as possible, and at the same time have the work done as desired by the nonprofit. So the nonprofit partnership would be working on behalf of the city to carry out the same functions that the committee had been doing for forever, since a long time ago, with some collaboration. And I guess without sort of getting into the specifics of what the partnership is thinking, that proposal is being developed. And I think we're looking at January, if you guys are available sometime mid to the end of January for that. The goals, now this is where the part of the presentation that I was kind of like thinking in my head, where does this go? Because, you know, the committee proper could continue to meet and advise the city on what the partnership is doing, but it seems really silly because the 3 of us who are currently on the committee are also members of the partnership. So it seems like the communication should, you just take out the middleman. But at the same time, I've heard interest from the city, and it's up to the city commissioners as to if you want to keep that committee alive and revise its structure and function so that it does something else other than the incoming and outgoing delegations from Higashiomi Kayani, the artist exchange program we've got going on, etc. The stuff I talked about that we've been doing, the scholarship with NMU. All that stuff is the nonprofit is interested in taking over, which makes, from my perspective, the Sister City Advisory Committee, it makes that a moot point. Like moot, totally, like get rid of it. But there may be some other purpose for that if there's vision for you guys, but then, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what my role would be in helping you find somebody who's interested in doing whatever that new vision would be. So for issues in discussion, we want to make sure that you guys know that the nonprofit partnership has complete intentions and interest in maintaining a strong collaborative relationship with the city of Marquette and its commissioners. And I believe Commissioner Convenzi may have already agreed to be on the board, the nonprofit. And, you know, any of you others who are having a strong interest are welcome to join that board. We have 2 openings. I think we maxed out in our bylaws at 15, so we've got 13. Room for 2 more. We think that the city involvement should be as strong as ever and keep going in the same direction. I think that the future of the Sister City Committee, the one that I'm trying to give a report of, if it should even exist, is an issue for discussion. I think that's all I kind of wanted to say about that, except we really want to make sure that you're thanked from both the city committee and also from the partnership for being patient and having those work meetings with us and helping us see what you thought would be best for this committee and for the activities of Sister City more generally, and also more simply for your involvements when the delegates came. That was a really good time, and thanks for everybody who participated. The partnership wants you to know that they look forward to working with you and Marquette Sister City programs in the future.
Thank you, John. Arigato gozaimasu.
Doi tashimashite.
Thank you. And thank you to your committee and yourself for your patience, because this has been a very difficult thing to work out, and I really appreciate you hanging in there. So, commissioners, any comments? Commissioner Convenzi?
Well, I did receive a call from Paulette last week asking if I would like to meet with her to kind of talk about what the direction is of this new committee and what my thoughts were, and I thought it sounded good. I know I was one of the most vocal for being concerned about what would happen to it and, you know, should these relationships fall apart. I'm interested in being on the committee whether or not the commission decides to have a commissioner or not. As a nonprofit, I'd like to be on either way. I guess that was something I'd like to bring up with the commission after I met with Paulette. I did attend part of one of their meetings, and it's exciting to see the energy, the amount of people stepping up. There's no doubt in my mind this is going to go away. I think we have the interest of our community to keep these 2 relationships going. And I think the most satisfying thing to me is that the discussion that was had at the meeting was how do you make it bigger, better, stronger. One of it is the boundary, you know, increasing that, getting more people involved. But the thing that really drew me to the Sister City group when I went to the reception from Finland was that they wanted to bring 5 people over here to study forestry. And particularly after talking to Marty, they have these poplars that grow in between their beautiful pine trees, and they choke them out and they kill them, and they wanted to come here to see what we did. What do we do with ours? And so, if I'm not mistaken, one of their tours was to a pulp plant to see what kind of products they could get out of it. So there's a real educational exchange going on. And I know there's people in the Marquette area public schools that are very interested in the Finnish school system. What are they doing? Because they're extremely successful. So I think there's a huge educational piece here. A lot of people might see it as just cultural, but as I'm getting more familiar with it, I really like the educational piece. And I know with Japan we've sent an artist, there's been an artist exchange, and that's invaluable when the art pieces come back and forth and we send an artist over there. So I'd like to thank you for your work. I think it's going to take a meeting or a discussion to kind of see what we do with the Sister City Committee. But But I would like to say, for those of you who kind of have known where I've stood with this, that I do feel that it's in no way going away from our community. In fact, I think it's only going to get stronger. So thank you, and thanks to everyone else that's put their time and their heart into this, because it really is part of our roots in this community that generations before me have started. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none. John, thank you very much for a great presentation and your extreme patience. Okay, and I think down the road we're going to have to meet as a committee, as a commission, and decide and look forward to January what your advice is. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda, if Johnny DePietro and Dave Carlson could come forward, please. Well, on behalf of the commission, we're recognizing both of you, Johnny, for your years of service on the Traffic and Parking Advisory Committee, and as you saw tonight, they're a very effective committee, and they'll miss you. And also, we wish you good luck as a county commissioner. And here's your shirt and pin, of which you probably have a whole bunch, and a plaque. Do you have any words of wisdom you'd like to share with us?
Certainly. I wouldn't miss this opportunity for nothing. But anyways,
3 minutes. Yeah. Johnny.
I see Bill Larsh is in there, and I appreciate Bill was kind of the brainchild on the Traffic and Parking Committee, along with everybody else, and Captain Blake Rebold and Jake. But one of the things that's very important, of all the residents of Marquette and every opening that is available at this time, there's residents that have issues with these boards. So I'm going to challenge them to, if you're really that concerned and you want to see things get done, you don't even have to come down to City Hall to fill out the application. You can go right on the website. You can fill it out there and just push send, and it'll go right to the City Hall. Within a few minutes, you'll be notified that you're on the board, and and the commission have you come up here. They'll give you a shirt that fits you, and a certificate, and a city pin, and an ink pen, and stuff like that. But to me, this is very, very important for residents. Every single commissioner sitting in their chair right now have residents coming up to them and saying, why do you do this? And I'm having trouble on the streets. I'd like to see this change. Now, we got 4 openings. Come on and help make the change, you know, and wastewater treatment plants and all the other ones that Mayor Coyne had announced earlier. Also, you can go on the city website and go back and look at how many are openings, and I think that there are people very compatible with the boards. Can I keep going? No, I just want to thank all of you for, you know, putting me on, having me on this traffic board. I loved it, and some of the issues that they addressed today about Washington and 7th Street, how with the new businesses, how the traffic gets backed up at all 4 intersections. Even emergency vehicles are having problems getting through there. So I realize that they're really going to address this issue to correct it. And people, that's, like I say, had also mentioned that. So in East Washington Street from front to Lakeshore Boulevard became an issue about bigger vehicles coming through. So anyways, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, the City Commission. our city manager, Bill Vida, our chief of police, Mike Angeli. Appreciated all the patience that you had with me over the years. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yes, I want to give you a hug.
He's going to give me a hug.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have the floor now, Dave.
Well, Dave, that's a hard act to follow. And also, you're not quite accurate on how you apply. We'll go into that a little. You just don't apply and we show up. No. To use your old line, I'm the mayor, and no, you're not. No, it's not. Well, Dave, thank you for your service on the library board. That's a great library, and I know your service was greatly appreciated. And good luck to you on the Board of Light and Power. So we've given you a shirt. It's a little smaller than Johnny's, and another pin and a plaque. And feel free to follow Johnny with some words if you'd like.
I couldn't follow those very well at all, but I would like to say that I appreciated the chance to be on the Peter White Library Board. It's a great gem in our city. It's just wonderful to have it and to try to work there to try to keep it rolling. It's actually rolling quite well, but it's also starting to face a bunch of challenges. If you guys can fix up the tax structure anyway. I guess I just decided that it was time to maybe get back on the Board of Light and Power with all of the power issues that we're facing in the area and the community. And so I appreciate the votes of citizens to get me onto that board again. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you both. Thank you, Dave. I'm just going to stay up here, and if I could have Buzz Barabee and Terry Shapansky come up. The commission is welcoming 2 new members to the Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. And gentlemen, Buzz, I'm going to give you this pin. Thank you. And Terry, give you this pin. Thank you both very much for stepping up. This is a critical authority that we're dealing with, and we really needed your help and expertise. We greatly appreciate it. And I know Buzz was on, I think, the original Brownfield back in the 80s, and I really appreciate you coming back and sharing your knowledge. And would either of, I hesitate to say this, would either of you two like to say anything?
Buzz usually is a good spokesman for
Okay.
Unlike Commissioner DePietro, I'm a man of few words, so thank you.
Well,
No, I just want to say thank you very much. I'm looking forward to working with the group. I think we've got a lot of challenges, and it will be an interesting time.
Well, we'll see you Thursday. You have to get up to snuff quick. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, the next item on the agenda is the appointment of Elizabeth Dunn to the Presque Isle Advisory Committee for a term ending 4/01/15, and the reappointment of Joe Constance for an alternate position on the Board of Zoning Appeals for the term ending February 15th, 2018. A motion to include both of those, both an appointment and a reappointment, would be in order. Commissioner Campana?
I move that we appoint Elizabeth Drum to the Presque Isle Park Advisory Committee and reappoint Joe Constance to the alternate position on the Board of Zoning Appeals, as listed.
Is there support?
I'll support it.
Okay. The city attorney, are you giving me the fisheye? Is that okay? Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. I thought I did something wrong by including both of those. So, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Okay. Thank you. That motion passes. Now is the time for public comment. Limited to 3 minutes. This is also the time, if you wish, to reserve time on an agenda item, and let the record show that this is like a stoplight up here. Green when you start, yellow in 1 minute. It'll start blinking in 30 seconds in red when your 3 minutes is up. And the good news is I've sloughed off my job to timekeeping to the clerk. I don't do that anymore because it was difficult to run the meeting and push buttons, and so I'm happy, and it was pointed out that was the way it's supposed to be done, so we're going to do that. So anyone wishing to step forward, please state your name and place of residence and the city in which you live, or township in which you live.
Frank Jefferto, 350 East Ridge, Marquette, to speak on item 10. If you'd move it up, please. These are my opinions. November 24th, Compenzi recommended public forums for the hospital. You're late already and still no date. And where is the required hearing for the old Coast Guard property? If all we await is the hearing, then why are you delaying us further? We all want the rowers to have boat storage. In fact, I'd advocated for this at the approved site until a host of revelations emerged. Firstly, the rowers cared less about your approval of the wooded beach south of Gaines Rock. They wanted their boathouse wherever you'd approve one to suit their needs, regardless of public sentiment. They appealed to 7 votes, not the public at large, who equally own that beach. Secondly, they failed to provide the requested perspective drawings for the current site. They finally published one, which is ugly as sin. Where is a front angle drawing? You were negligent by not asking for these ahead of your vote, instead approving a structure on our lakeshore based on a chicken scratch drawing. You need to know how a proposal will appear before your vote, which isn't possible without perspective drawings. Thirdly, the revised plan called for too large a structure, an imposing dock, an asphalt driveway, and a huge staging area causing impact beyond the building's 80-foot length. End to end, roughly 270 feet of public lakeshore is affected for a facility that allows only 15% public use. They got overzealous as their project gained momentum. Fourthly, there are 3 alleged conflicts of interest. The wives are well-meaning, but it's not ethical for the very attorney whose wife is a member to draw up the lease. Although the manager had sense to recuse himself, the fact that his wife belongs undoubtedly influenced your votes. Campana, contrary to Nemi's rationale, failed to recuse himself, allegedly because 5 votes were needed to force the item through. Whether financial gain is involved is no less damaging than political influence. It's clear you employed the same step-by-step process that is clearly documented on so many other land use items. The deal killer for me was the Rowing Club president's May 12th suggestion that the Lake 4 Task Force report is outdated. You're hereby asked to launch another survey. You'll find that the citizen values toward preserving our lakeshore, and Heartwood for that matter, have remained steadfast to this minute. Lastly, we now know that many more residents oppose the current site than originally thought. Voters are encouraged to reference the SaveFoundersLandingBeach.com website. Why not look upon the demise of the Cinder Pond building as our opportunity to incorporate a boathouse into a more elaborate facility there, including a dock just south of the pilings? The land was cleared last spring as if timed to our benefit by a higher power.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Chris Kovla, 1109 Jefferson here in Marquette. I just wanted to talk about, I guess, agenda item number 12, the Special Assessment Directive. I just want to thank the Commission for putting this on the agenda. My wife and I just moved into a house on Jefferson Street. It's a truncated part of Jefferson Street, so it's just 1 block. It's a gravel road, and we're having some issues with runoff from the east coming down the hill, washing out the gravel that's on that part of the road into people's driveways, and we're having issues in basements as well, with some pumps running even right now as probably as we speak. So I do just want to say thank you for taking the time to actually look at the item.
Thank you.
Good evening, Your Malanky and 8 Marquette Drive. As you probably noticed, you guys are and gals feverishly escalating to the last commission with all the compliments from one of the people in the audience. But a good job, and I appreciate everything that you guys do. I'm glad to see the sister city being reorganized. I used to be a member of that for many years. I visited Finland several times as was part of the delegation to Finland, and it was really frustrating at sometimes to be part of the city organization and all its rules and regulations, and it just seemed to become more and more cumbersome, and so like myself and others just kind of left. This evening I was asked to rejoin, and I accepted, and so that it makes it a lot more interesting and I never really wanted to leave. It just became so cumbersome, and it appears to be a little bit more friendlier toward us on this side of the fence, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this, and I'm sure we'll continue to communicate with the city on what the organization is doing. It really isn't changing other than it not being under the distinct jurisdiction of the city. Now we're able to have members outside the city as well, and that will help and has helped immensely. So thank you for letting that happen, and we will keep everything up to best on what's going on in that respect as well. And again, thank you for a fabulous job that you guys and gals are doing. City could not run without your diligent work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Lyle Vanderscaff, 235 Huron Woods Drive, Marquette Township. I'm not here tonight to speak on anything on the agenda. I was just asked to come and bring something here. As you may be aware, this August, the International Mountain Biking Association had their World Summit in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I was able to attend as the chairman of the Nokamanon Trail Network's Single Track Committee. And at the World Summit, Marquette, Michigan was awarded designation as a ride center by the International Mountain Bike Association. That makes us one of 22 so recognized locations in the world. And one of only about half a dozen in the Midwest. So through the work of a lot of volunteers and obviously with the help of a lot of partnering organizations, we've taken a place high up in the world of mountain biking and are starting to see that we are being taken more seriously as a destination. There's been a lot of stuff in the last just month. We've seen articles in things like Men's Health and the Washington Post about our winter snow biking trails and stuff. So I think all of this has been kind of coming together to get Marquette a lot of really good recognition. And at the summit we were given a plaque to put on display wherever we liked. We had a number of copies made for some of our partners, so I'd like to give this to you, Mr. Mayor, and let the city display that wherever they feel is appropriate.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, as has been mentioned before, the decisions made by this board in the years past and going forward have had a lot of effect. Obviously, purchasing and preserving the Heartwood has been a real big part of maintaining and developing the trail system that we have. So again, we appreciate everything that's been done for us that like to use the trails.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Terry Deering. I live at 530 East Arch Street in the city of Marquette. I speak on behalf of the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club. We appreciate City Commission support for our project and recognize that the new members may not have the full benefit of having heard all the presentations and discussions during the many months that led up to the support of the Community Boathouse project. So we feel the need to point out some of the inconsistencies and misinformation that is being distributed by an oppositional group. You may have heard that Mr. Mike Niger, with the assistance of Mr. Frank Verito, has launched an effort to stop the UPCRC's efforts to provide a community boathouse. This, in spite of Mr. Verito's public comments of March 31st, 2014, when he said, "We all want the boathouse. The site of the sculls, the history of rowing, the NMU aspect, accessibility, health, fitness, and all the above is best achieved at the north location, as is parking and walking distance." Mr. Verito is now petitioning against the solution that he argued in favor of to this commission. Mr. Niger's website regarding the Marquette Community Boathouse project is so riddled with inaccuracies and misinformation that our architects have written to Mr. Niger and his attorney requesting him remove the drawings from the webpage immediately because, and I quote, "The narrative you have provided does not accurately describe the proposed facilities or the planning of a facility that truly serves the recreational needs of our community. In making his disingenuous claims, Mr. Niger is leading the citizens of Marquette astray. He is showing a lack of respect for a long and complicated public process and the carefully considered decisions of public officials who were duly elected to represent the citizens of Marquette. Our group's commitment to civic responsibility has been well demonstrated for 11 years, as we have provided the Upper Peninsula's only opportunity for youth and adults to participate in group rowing. I ask the citizens of Marquette to honor our civic commitment by respecting the decision that was made and by making the effort to learn the truth about this project. Our club, the UPCRC, has posted thorough documentation on our website at uprowing.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Daring. Okay.
Hi. Tansy Parsons, 1023 North Front Street. I am a 10-year member of the UPCRC. I'm an avid rower, former NMU crew coach, which is a volunteer position, and currently one of the coaches for the UPCRC, which is also a volunteer position, just to reintroduce myself to anybody who hasn't heard me speak up here before. I'd like to share some more facts with everybody else listening here tonight. The Rowing Club is facilitating a partnership with the city, the landowner, and with the community for funding to build a grade-level public observation deck with below-grade, non-motorized watercraft storage just south of the Hampton Inn. For many years, this area has been used as a base of operations for our public rowing program at the same time as a public beach. This would not change. The proposed changes tuck the equipment out of view while providing lakeside viewing and better waterfront access amenities for the general public. The opposition wants you to think this is a private members-only clubhouse, but it's not. It's a community boathouse with allocated secure storage space inside and outside for watercraft belonging to members and non-members alike. Neither membership nor payment is required to use the handicap-accessible public observation deck and patio, 7 additional parking spaces, restrooms, walkways, and launch dock. If you are a person that depends on a wheelchair or other mobility assistance device, you can't currently access this beach. When this project is complete, people with limited mobility can enjoy the lake from the rooftop observation deck, from the outdoor patio that is accessible from the bike path. They can roll down to the water's edge on the beach mat path, or even enter their watercraft from the handicapped accessible launch dock. Our plans, you will see, the public patio is described as porous paving, but it certainly doesn't mean the same thing as a parking lot. It's environmentally sensitive material, and it allows for water penetration while at the same time allowing people with limited mobility to enjoy beach-level access. The opposition won't tell you that the Rowing Club is a nonprofit organization that provides public recreation through its entirely volunteer-based staff. Our program provides the only opportunity among Upper Peninsula coastal communities for high school students and adults of all ages and genders to participate in group rowing. Participants pay annual dues, which give them access to rowing equipment, training, safety protection, and the organized group rows, which are offered multiple times every day. Our organization offers scholarships for those who can't afford participation and subsidizes and supports the NMU crew. What's being given away? Nothing. The site remains in city ownership, as do all planned improvements, at no cost to the city. What is the cost of the lease? In addition to getting the funds to construct the building, our community rowing organization has agreed to pay for all maintenance and repairs for property improvements during the term of the lease, so there are no legacy costs to the city taxpayers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak or reserve time?
Bob Kimbenzi, 306 North 6th Street. I just wanted to throw out something when you get to, I don't know if it would be both numbers 10 and 11, but when you heard the discussion from the on the Sister Cities Committee, you know, one of the big advantages I think that's going to happen now is that they can have some people from outside of the city on this board that they're setting up. And I think if you look back to when we had the Heartwood Committee, we had the same thing. Now, I don't know how There were some complaints at the time that we had about 4 or 5 people on that committee that were not city residents, but they brought a lot of expertise to the table on the certain areas like the ski hill, the snowmobile trails, etc. So I know the committees basically are for city residents, but how could you look at that in a way that maybe you could have a non-city resident as a committee member on some of those? You know, a lot of those committees it's probably not important, but on some of it might be. So consider that.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Excuse me. Good evening, Roger Bentledge, 3007 M28 East, Marquette. I'm a member of the UPCRC board, but I'm speaking on my own behalf, my own opinions of what's going on, and may not necessarily represent the total opinion of the Community Rowing Club. I believe in watchdog organizations. I think it's the right responsibility and actually our duty to question our elected officials and the organizations that may affect the community as a whole. However, when those watchdog organizations or individuals misinterpret, misstate, or blatantly fabricate information to further their personal agendas, they are of no value. In fact, I believe they are detrimental to, to the community. Mr. Verito, as was mentioned earlier, campaigned very hard and was very dedicated to move the proposed boathouse site from Gaines Rock to the current location near the Hampton Inn. He talked a great story, had concerns and opinions that were heard, and now he campaigns and supports a petition against the very solution that he proposed. The newly formed Safe Founders Landing Beach Initiative, founded by Mr. Niger, is a watchdog organization focused on furthering its agenda regardless of the impact on the community. His website is riddled with misleading comment, misstatements, and fabricated information. He continually refers to a private members-only clubhouse. Webster's defines private as non-public. Every aspect of what's been proposed here is actually available to the public in one form or another. I think we put the clubhouse issue to bed maybe a year and a half ago when we totally redesigned the proposal as far as the architectural portion of that goes. He refers to an imposing, this is on the website, 5,780 square foot members only masonry clubhouse. He got part of it right. We've already talked about the clubhouse aspect. It is 5,780 feet, and it is masonry. Imposing, maybe more impressive would be an appropriate word, because not 1 square inch of surface area is lost to the public. As a matter of fact, they actually gain square footage by virtue of the fact of adding public restrooms and that sort of thing. 7-car parking lot. I guess parking lot is an interpretation. That parking lot, or those 7 spaces, provide access to a new facility for public observation deck, public beach, public boat storage, and public restrooms. I'm not sure that the parking lot is going to be a negative impact. I could go on, quite honestly. I've got about 15 items, and I'm about to lose the time here. I'm going to steal one comment from actually their website. It states simply, "I'm not buying it." Well, I'm not buying it either, and I hope that the community and the commission don't buy what they're putting out without thorough investigation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone further wishing to speak? If not, I'm going to close the public comment section. We move on to the next item of concern is the consent agenda, and just point out if a motion is made to approve the consent agenda, it ought to include removing the bill payable to Sarah Reynolds for her trip to the Japanese Emperor's celebration. So is there such a motion? Commissioner Connolly?
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of, and for separate consideration, the payment to Commissioner Reynolds.
Is there support? Commissioner Campana?
Support.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? No. Passes unanimously. Now another motion to approve the payment to Commissioner Reynolds. Commissioner Connolly?
I move that the Commission approve the payment to Commissioner Reynolds.
I'll second. Yes.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all
Your
those.
Honor.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't see your finger.
Thanks. I would like to let my fellow commissioners know I will be voting against this. This is something I have not supported in years past. In a time when we've cut $2 million from our capital improvement budget, I don't think any of us should be going to anything as commissioners that we can't directly trace back to, I guess, improving the city. And this is one of those things where I think it's a feel-good thing. I really don't think it's something that is necessary. I would much rather send our employees to some training. And I think we have several opportunities to get training ourselves. But I'd kind of like to see us watch the budget, especially when we haven't added back the $2 million we've cut. Thank you.
Any further comments? I have a comment. I also questioned that as to the validity of going, and the answer that I received was there were many Japanese businessmen in Detroit there eager to make contacts throughout Michigan, and I was going to go, but frankly the weather was such that I didn't want to go through that. But I'd also had contact with a Japanese businessman who buys bird's eye veneer and is very interested in the stands in the Upper Peninsula, and I had an appointment to visit with him. So I don't think it was strictly frivolous. It was, in my opinion, an effort to develop some potential business relationships with a considerable number of Japanese people were there. And I don't, Commissioner Reynolds, I don't know if you, because this is, you don't have to vote on this, but do you have any comments on the actual meeting that you felt was worth going, or did you just go and have a good time?
Well, first thing, I'm kind of sick, so sorry. My voice is a little messed up. I was going to talk about it in my closing comments, but I guess I could talk about it now. In general, I found it to be extremely valuable. Some people that I did meet, I met about 3 Japanese businessmen, the other people we were with just as well, but 3 that were particularly interested in coming up to visit. Hopefully, though, in the summertime, not around this time. They were not convinced they were going to come up in the winter. Also, I had a chance to meet the representative Papa George, which is actually the most valuable one that I had, because he's worked with Representative Kivala on a lot of bills, and he's actually going to come up, and he's actually more interested in being around Marquette, and we developed a good relationship with that. And so for that reason, I did find it to be very valuable, and I would go back again. I did. And it was a good time, too. I mean, it was.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Okay, opposed? No?
No.
Okay, passes 6-1. Next, we go to item number 9, the new business, microbead resolution. Mr. Clerk, could you read the agenda item, please?
Yes, Your Honor. At the meeting of November 24th, 2014, the Superior Watershed Partnership presented the City Commission a resolution encouraging Marquette residents to avoid using personal care products that contain microbeads. Microbeads are microscopic pieces of plastic that are neither biodegradable nor able to be treated with the municipal wastewater treatment system. They float freely in water column of the Great Lakes and consequently bioaccumulate in fish and other organisms once ingested. The partnership is asking the City Commission to adopt the attached resolution to protect the Great Lakes. Fiscal effect none by this action. Recommendation: consider adopting the attached resolution regarding microbead products and Great Lakes protection. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you. Is there a motion on this agenda item? Commissioner Campenzi, excuse me.
I move that we approve the microbead resolution as read.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Commissioner Campenzi, any discussion? Any other commissioners wishing to speak? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? That motion passes. The next item is the City Commission Rules of Procedure. Mr. Clerk, could you read that, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Background. Each year, the Commission adopts rules of procedure to help the Commission run an efficient meeting and to deal with the public and the media in a positive manner. The attached version places the rules in outline format. Fiscal effect none by this action recommendation. Following review of current City Commission rules of procedure, adopt new rules of procedure for 2015. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you. Mr. Verito, you asked to speak on this item.
Frank Jeff Verito, 350 East Ridge, Marquette. These are my opinions. On November 25, 2013, the Commission eliminated closing comment solely because 4 members lacked the decency to address the allegations of one. Had 30 people regularly shown up to speak, you'd have had a legitimate reason. The current mayor is accused of playing a key role in stealing our time. What's odd was his previous statement that he didn't think 3 minutes was enough to compose a comment, yet he and Mr. Nemi, Campana, and Stonehouse voted to steal all 3 of our minutes, leaving us only 1 3-minute general comment opportunity. As a result of this theft, you've left us too little time to handle the volume of issues that our community simultaneously faces, or in my case, even the time to properly reference officials by using Mr., Mrs., and Ms. during general comment. On November 25, 2013, Mr. Ryan voted against the theft, pointing out that closing comment is necessary for things left unsaid. Sometimes the discourse on certain items warrants clarification afterward while the discourse is still fresh on our minds, or at least the time needs to be there just in case. Mr. Stonehouse said he didn't know of a board with 2 opportunities, yet there are many. He needed to look no farther than across the street at the county meetings or down the road in Negaunee. Another problem was Mr. Nemi's installation of your timing system. I'm not opposed to timing the comments because some people tended to take advantage. The trouble is, speakers aren't able to wrap up their comments effectively, as it's impossible to tell when the blinking white light will turn to red. A visible clock would serve both the public and the Commission much better. Also, you're asked not to begin our time until we finish stating our addresses, since the address is mandatory and is not part of our comments. An additional 10 to 15 seconds would also be welcome after the red light to let ramblers wrap up their comments, and in my case, to allow time to include Mr., Mrs., and Ms. during general comment. If you welcome public input to the extent that you claim, please provide a more user-friendly timing process, and above all, make a motion to reinstate the 3-minute closing comment opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, could you read you did read the agenda item, sorry. Yes. Is there a motion or anything? Commissioner Connolly.
I move to adopt policy number 2003-01 with the amendment, adding to section 5, paragraph C, called addressing the commission. We would like it to read, a person shall state, excuse me. Should I restate this?
Yeah, you should.
I move to adopt policy number 2003-01, section, with the amendment to section 5, paragraph C, labeled addressing the commission. I would like it to read, a person shall state his or her name and physical home address, comma, including municipality.
Is there support to that?
I'll support that.
Just a moment. Someone had their hand up. Commissioner Campana?
Second that.
Okay. Any? Commissioner Connolly, comments?
There's an expression, I know where you're coming from, and I don't always hear in commission chambers. And I think that helps to put comments in perspective. We've also asked that we give a physical address, and a number of people confuse their post office with their physical address. People who are served by the Marquette post office are not always residents of the city Marquette, and I'd like to clarify that during comments.
Commissioner Campana?
I support this because it clarifies things, and I don't see it being a negative thing, so it can only help. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Any other Commissioner Cambenzi?
I guess to bring up another point, we have had some discussion about residents and non-residents who want to speak to us under the age of 18. Full name and physical address, I guess that was something that I guess I'd like maybe the attorney or even my fellow commissioners to kind of weigh in on this, if possible.
Mr. Keefe, do you have any comment?
I think the way we've handled it in the past, and it's probably a good way to do it, is if you have someone who's young who wants to address the commission, I think the mayor has discretion to waive that requirement. Seeing that the person is under 18, maybe you can even indicate or ask those who are under a certain age to let you know, rather than write it into the rule. Because I know the mayor in the past has exercised that discretion after it came to our attention that someone under that age wished to address the commission. So, I mean, that would be my way of doing it.
Commissioner Campenzi?
I guess that's...
Yeah, I would respond. That means every younger woman, I have to ask how old they are. I don't want to really do that.
No, what I was saying is that you could ask the speakers if there's anyone under a certain age, if they are under a certain age and don't wish to give their name and address, that you're willing to waive it. All they have to do is let you know. They don't need to know how old they are.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions on the motion? No one else wishing to speak? Oh, Commissioner Campenzi.
I guess going on to a different topic. No, I wasn't here when we voted to take away the last public comment, but I do feel it does add, some closure for the community. And I guess my take on it is, we took it out, and I feel like we're punishing the class for a few kids that might speak too much or speak more than we want or say things we don't want to listen to. But I guess I'm of the favor that we should welcome and offer as much public comment as possible. And at the end, I think a lot of times people, after hearing us go through our discourse, really would like to make comments to us. So I guess when I see the closing comment that's not there anymore, I tend to see it as missed opportunity for positive comments, even though I believe it was taken out to kind of shorten our meetings and get rid of some of the negativity. So I guess before we vote, if there are any other commissioners that might have a response to that or a reply, I guess I'd like to hear it.
Commissioner Campana, you wish to speak?
I just was wondering what the motion is that we're going to vote on when we come to it, because I think there's about 3 motions.
No, there's one motion with an amendment to what was presented, and that is to have the individual wishing to speak state their address and where they live in the city or township.
So we'll vote on those.
That's one motion.
Okay.
That's all that's before us. Anything further? Commissioner Reynolds.
I also agree with Commissioner Campenzi. When this came up last year, I agreed with Commissioner Ryan at the time, and I voted against it for the exact reason that Mr. Verto gave, that there's always could be time for something else. And I've had 2 separate people within a year's time that has come up to me and said they missed the first comment, and then they had to come back the next meeting, and it's a lot of time for people to take out of their day to come here and be brave enough to actually talk. So for that, just those 2 people alone, I miss it. I wish it was back.
Okay.
As I understand the history and why we put in public comment years ago, probably Commissioner Coyne and I are the only ones who were around when it was reinstated or put in by state legislation. But the purpose was to advise the commission or school boards or whatever the organization was that somebody had an opinion on what that board was going to vote on. So I always looked at the importance of the public comment was the opportunity for the citizens, the residents, the voters to say, here's an opinion about what you're going to vote on tonight or maybe next week or something. Having been at other organizations where there was a closing thing, I'm not sure the comments necessarily pertain to what you were voting on because you've already voted. It was over. I suppose I would prefer to stay with the current system we have.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Commissioner Campana?
I think that I know that I am against the second public comment because I feel that what needs to be said can be said in 3 minutes. Person has the opportunity to speak on an agenda item, which gives them more time. And lastly, if they really want to voice their opinion, I mean, our phone numbers are listed in the website. I encourage people to call me. I don't personally don't care if they call me. They can call me at any time, and I will respond to them. So they have the opportunity to let themselves be known. Thank you, Your Honor.
Anyone further? I have one comment I would like to ask the city attorney. I'm taking some offense by the word the commission is stealing and the theft of the public comment of their time. According to the state law, there is an opportunity for public comment. There is nothing that says you have to have 2 or that it has to be 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever. There has to be public comment. So the concept of we're stealing it is perhaps wrong.
Yeah, the law is simply that you have to provide reasonable public comment, period.
Yes.
And under rules that you can reasonably set, and you have.
Right.
So there's no specific.
I have another question. We've been to, not recently, but last year, one speaker in particular would not start speaking or stop if the mayor would write something down. Is there anything in the law, and then complain that everybody has to look at the person? Is there anything in the state legislation, the law, that says everyone has to stop everything and look at the person? Is there anything in the law that says that?
Absolutely nothing. It's really public comment. It's not anything to do with the activity of the board or commissioner or whoever is listening to this public comment. I mean, whether you're looking down and writing or you're looking up, it's not regulated. It's simply public comment.
Thank you. One final thing. I would certainly, vote against this if there were 50 people sitting here, yelling at us that we want public comment twice. There's one person who does this all the time, and that one person is often very negative, and it makes it very hard for people sitting here, and it also is hard for people watching it to listen to some of the obnoxious comments, but people have the right to do that, but it still makes it unpleasant. So I'm not going to vote for it unless a whole bunch of people said, boy, we want this. And I would just point out the person who did that comment has now left. Is not here. So, they're here and they're never here when we're not on television. So that's just reality. Okay, I'm going to call the motion, then the question. All those in favor of the motion as stated, please say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? No. Any no? One no. Okay. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, so 6-1. No. Oh, I thought you changed from yes to no. I'm sorry, Sarah. What?
I was just asking, I was going to say before you called the roll that I would vote for it, but just if the clerk could reflect that I did vote yes. However, my preference would be to add the final closing comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
So it was unanimous. Sorry, I mistook you for that. All right. The next agenda item is item number 11. Mr. Clerk, could you read that, please?
Yes, Your Honor. This was the committee recruiting subcommittee background. At the November 24th, 2014 commission work session, the commission requested to appoint 3 city commissioners to review recruiting strategies and recommendations for the city commission appointed boards and committees. Their term would be for 1 year ending December 8th, 2015. Fiscal effect, none by this action. Recommendation, appoint 3 city commissioners to review recruiting strategies and recommendations for city commission appointed boards and committees. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. I've had 3 commissioners voice desire to do this, to serve on this committee. Commissioner Baldini, Commissioner Campana, and Commissioner Reynolds. So would it be, I don't know how this works, if the mayor appoints them or does it somebody, a motion? Okay, so would there be a motion to appoint such a committee? Commissioner Conley?
I move that we form a committee recruiting subcommittee and appoint Commissioners Campana, Reynolds, and Baldini to that committee, term ending December 8th, 2015.
Okay. Is there support to that?
I'll support.
Okay, any other? Commissioner Connolly?
Nothing further.
Who supported it? Okay, any comments?
Just to remind the commission, Your Honor, that everyone votes on this, even those who are nominated, just to make sure that everybody's clear on that.
Thank you. No further comments. All those in favor, please say aye. Say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Opposed? No. Okay. Next item, number 12, Special Assessment Directive, the 1100 block of Jefferson Street. Chris, did you wish to speak at all further on this item, or just? You can if you wish. I mean, I wasn't clear if whether that was your comment or would you?
No, I think that's
okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Clerk, could you read the agenda item, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. On October 17th, 2014, the residents along the 1100 block of Jefferson Street filed a petition requesting a proposal be prepared for a special assessment project to upgrade the gravel street with asphalt paving, curbing, and storm sewer. Section 40-2 of the City Code provides for the City Commission to establish special districts where the cost of any public improvement shall be defrayed by special assessment on the property requesting the improvement. Section 40-5 of the City Code provides that before determining to make any improvement, any part of the cost of which is to be defrayed by special assessment, the City Commission shall direct the City Manager to prepare or cause to be prepared a report which shall contain any information the Commission may request concerning the improvement. The City Manager shall request the City Engineer to prepare or cause to be prepared preliminary plans for the improvement, an estimate of the cost of the improvement, a description of the Special Assessment District, and such other information as the Commission may have requested. The City Manager shall prepare his report, which shall contain preliminary plans for the improvement, the estimate of the cost of the improvement, a description of the Special Assessment District, a recommendation as to what part of the cost should be paid by special assessment and which part, if any, should be paid by general obligation of the city, and such other information as the Commission may have requested, and shall present the report to the Commission. Upon the direction of the City Commission, the City Manager will initiate the drafting of the report. Fiscal effect, none at this time. Recommendation, direct the City Manager to prepare a report to the City Commission involving the preliminary plans, costs, and other necessary information to upgrade the 1100 block of Jefferson Street, alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Mr. Baldini?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we direct the City Manager to prepare a report to the City Commission, for the City Commission, involving the preliminary plans, cost, and other necessary information to upgrade the 1100 block of Jefferson Street.
Thank you. Commissioner Reynolds?
Second.
Commissioner Baldini, any discussion?
I think we all had the opportunity to read the papers that are there. I took a ride out there purposely to see specifically what was there, and yeah, it needs some attention.
Commissioner Reynolds?
I just echo Commissioner Baldini. I also, every time something comes up where it's some kind of road, I drive out there just so I know what it's talking about, and I did that as well. And simply we're asking the City Manager to look into how much this will be and what we'll be looking at. So that's why I will voting yes.
Okay. Any further comments from any other commissioners? Commissioner Kimbenzi?
Just out of curiosity, it does say that it's a gravel street. Is that what I read? So if it's not on the 5-year plan, that means it's out much farther. Probably.
Who are you asking?
City staff, I guess, whoever. can answer the questions.
It's in the capital improvement plan, but as you know, the gravel streets have been kind of shifted all over the place, so it's up to the city commission, I guess, or however they want to handle it, where they want to stick that as far as the priority part of it. But it is in the capital improvement plan. It just depends on where it wants to be placed.
And I guess just one more question. We've had some intense storms this last year. Has this been a problem street, or is it some of it weather related?
Well, being a gravel street and it's on a hill, it's always been a problem as far as maintenance. We took care of a couple of those just this past construction season on Furnace Street and Mike Street. Anytime you got a hill situation, you're going to get erosion.
Thank you.
Okay, any further comments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. The next item is item number 13. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Your Honor. This is for Senior Services Master Agreement to Purchase Services. Background. Presented for authorization is a master agreement to purchase services for the allocation of senior service programs for the delivery of services to older residents in the city of Marquette and the townships of Chalkley, Marquette, and Powell. In any given year, approximately 1/2 of the Marquette Senior Center budget is constituted of revenues derived through the purchase of service agreements such as the one under consideration. The agreement represents a significant part of the of the Senior Center's operational revenue. It should be noted that this year's millage allocation is $311,018 for the calendar year 2015. This represents an increase of $14,810 or 4% from the previous year's agreement. It should also be noted that reimbursement will be paid in a lump sum to be allocated monthly. Fiscal Effect Community Services Senior Services Fund will realize revenues of $311,018. Recommendation: approve the senior service contract and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the master agreement to purchase services for calendar year 2015. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure? Mr. Campana.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the senior service contract and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the master agreement to purchase services for the calendar year 2015.
Support?
Support.
Commissioner Campana, any discussion?
None at this time.
Mr. Frazier? Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Going on to item number 14. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. This is a request for United States Army Corps of Engineers Section 14 funding assistance for Lakeshore Boulevard flood control. Background. On November 11, 2014, a storm destroyed portions of the rock revetment adjacent to Lakeshore Boulevard and caused the closure of the road due to severe flooding and the rocks from the revetment being strewed over the road. This was the third time the road needed to be closed since a storm on September 10th, 2014, and the last 3 storms have knocked down the revetment, throwing all but the very largest rocks landward and causing segregation of the rocks such that the smallest rocks have been removed from the pile and sent inland. The loss of smaller rocks has created large voids around the larger diameter boulders, resulting in the larger rocks tumbling into the lake, and the sandy soil under and landward of the rock barrier is being swept away by wave action. The destruction of the rock revetment has severely compromised Lakeshore Boulevard and city utility infrastructure, and the road remains closed to protect safety, health, and welfare of the public. One opportunity research by staff is funding through the Section 14 Emergency Stream Bank and Shoreline Stabilization Program administered through the United States Army Corps of Engineers, or USACE. Please see the attached for program details. Staff has been in discussion with the USACE over the past month, and it initially appears that much of the previous planning and design work done on Lakeshore Boulevard projects funded by Coastal Zone Management may be utilized and reviewed for this program. with the understanding that the USAC funding is very limited and a lesser design option may be the proposed solution unless additional funding can be found. With this understanding, staff is currently communicating with the state and federal agencies regarding additional funding opportunities that could be used toward this effort and recommend submission of this request for assistance to initiate funding opportunity pursuit. Fiscal effect, none at this time. Subsequent cost-sharing agreements would be subject to commission approval. Recommendation, authorize the city manager to initiate a request to the United States Army Corps of Engineers to seek funding through the Section 14 Emergency Stream Bank and Shoreline Stabilization Program for Lakeshore Boulevard flood control. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners? Commissioner Baldini?
I move that we authorize the city manager to initiate a request to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to seek funding through the Section 14 Emergency Stream Bank Shoreline Stabilization Program for Lakeshore Boulevard flood control.
Is there support? Commissioner Reynolds?
Second.
Commissioner Baldini?
I don't think there's a lot of commentary needed here. We all know that the road is closed and we have continuing problems here, and it appears the situation is going to continue to deteriorate, and we better start pursuing what options there are there to fund this project. So, thank you.
Commissioner Reynolds?
The only comment I would make is this, again, I'm sorry, I'm so hoarse, is essentially asking the Army Corps of Engineers to help us fund this project, and through that, there will be planning and all that kind of stuff, but this is just the first step to ask them if they'd be willing to help us. So that's all I have to add.
Thank you.
May I ask a question of the city manager at this time? Would this, if we succeed in our request to the Corps of Engineers, would this reimburse us for the costs that we've incurred for the planning up to this point, or would this be costs going forward in dealing with the mess out there as it stands now?
Thank you, Otter. Thank you, Commissioner. This would be exclusively for any effort we take moving forward to remediate and repair that road. The coastal restoration funding is specifically for the mitigating the impacts of events like what we've seen within the past 3 months. It's just pleasant serendipity that we had a study in our pocket about taking a look at what the long-term strategy is for the lakeshore in the city.
Thank you.
Any further? Commissioner Cambenzi?
Well, I think any funding that'll help us with this is great, and I guess my background on it is coming on, we've been dealing with the land, knowing that eventually we're going to have to deal with the road and deal with the erosion. I would say this is something that has hit the commission extremely fast, and certainly closing Lakeshore is not something that we want to do, but to let the city residents know, I've had several people come up to me and voice their opinion that they're not happy. We have to do this. It's that bad. And I think our city engineer has shared with us that the thawing, the freezing, come spring, we're still going to have a mess. So this is a serious concern. It's a high price tag project. The only concern I have going forward with this, and I'd like to ask the city manager and the city attorney, I guess their interpretation, on Part D, it says the sponsor, which is the city, is responsible for removal of all hazardous, toxic, and radioactive waste prior to any construction. However, a lot of this construction will be outside of our property lines, some of it in the lake, and I guess I'm wondering, does this tie us to what's outside of our boundaries then going forward into this?
Well, let me maybe speak first. I don't think there's anything that's outside of our property. The bottomland is certainly controlled by different state statute, but it's still within the territorial water of the city. So I think the concern would be, we know that some of the challenges that we have at the site, the road actually has been part of the discussion about remediating the Cliffsdale property, and we're going to hear under separate work sessions that we've got planned moving forward what the potential environmental consequences might be should the road continue to decay, and the potential release of all of that flood water and that new groundwater being released into the lake might be. That will be a topic of separate discussion. We don't have a good answer tonight, but we're hoping to get something before the commission and the public soon. As far as the turning out,
I wouldn't have anything really to add to that, Commissioner. I mean, I think that the letter probably just mouths what the requirements are so that we're all on notice as to what we are responsible for. Whether it's there or not, it may not be there, but it's standard language.
Okay, any further discussion? Just a comment, thank you for your diligence getting onto this real quick. And I think Commissioner Cambenzi raises a good point. A lot of people don't like this, but once they are explained what the problem is, I mean, it's like, well, we don't happen to have $8 million laying around to fix it immediately, and that helps. It really does help to have people understand that we're just not doing it on a whim, but it's based on sound engineering recommendations. That's what they do. Okay, I'm going to call the question then, which is authorizing the city manager to initiate a request from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to seek funding through Section 14 Emergency Stream Bank and Shoreline Stabilization Program for Lakeshore Boulevard flood control. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, no. The motion passes unanimously. Mr. Clerk, item number 15. Marquette County Central Dispatch Policy Board appointment.
Yes, Your Honor. The Marquette County Central Dispatch Policy Board has an upcoming vacancy due to the completion of former Mayor Bob Nemey's term with the board. In the past, the City Commission has typically appointed one of their own members to serve as the Marquette City designee on this board. Past City Commission members who have served typically have had transportation, law enforcement, or fleet management response experience. Fiscal effect, none. Recommendation, appoint a city commissioner to the County Central Dispatch Policy Board as the Marquette City designee for a term ending 12/31/17. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
I apologize to Commissioner Fraser. I thought he was out of town, and I was going to ask him if he had any interest in serving on this board, the Central Dispatch Board. Would you be willing to do that? Okay, would someone be willing to make a motion to appoint him? Commissioner Reynolds?
I move we appoint Pete Frazier to the Marquette County Central Dispatch Policy Board as the Marquette City delegate for a term ending 12/31/2017.
Commissioner Connolly supports that?
Support.
All right. Any other discussion? Just a discussion. Thank you for being willing to do that, and appreciate it. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
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 Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. The next item is item number 16, Senate Resolution number 192. Mr. Clerk?
Yes, Your Honor. The State Senate passed the attached resolution number 192 to memorialize the Congress of the United States to stop the U.S. Postal Service from closing and consolidating the mail processing center in Kingsford, Michigan. It is recommended that the Marquette City Commission endorse the Senate resolution and forward the attached letter of support to Senator Casperson. Fiscal effect, none by this action. Recommendation, endorse Senate Resolution number 192 and forward the attached letter of support to Senator Casperson. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Commissioners? Commissioner Campana?
I move to make a motion that we endorse Senate Resolution number 192 and forward the attached letter of support to Senator Casperson.
There's support.
Support.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Any discussion? Commissioner Campana?
Just that it's, we would hate to have this closed because, it facilitates good mail movement within the UP, and there's a lot of jobs will be affected, so we would like to see it not be closed. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Frazier?
No comments really, but I think we're all, like somebody said earlier, we're all like first name basis with our mailmen in the city of Marquette, and I think anything to make their job easier and would be good for us. So I think if it would make their job harder, none of us would want to see that. Not to mention people losing their jobs in another city. So I'm all for support of this.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Connolly?
I support this resolution because I think that having a regional post office in the Upper Peninsula promotes local business, which we're trying to promote. I have one question, and maybe, Mr. Manager, you could. I wonder about the use of the word memorialize, which means to honor by memory. Is this a common term that's used in the Senate?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, that's a term of art that the Senate uses to have the views of this commission reflected in the judgments that they're asking others to take. In this particular case, it's not a state action to close the Kingsford facility. It's been a longstanding proposal by the federal government to do that. Senator Levin, prior to his decision not to run again, had been the largest proponent for advocating a continued use of that processing facility. He anticipated that, in addition to the direct impacts Commissioner Frazier mentioned, that without a facility like that in the UP, we could see some pretty severe service impacts. We might find that mail might not be subject to delivery on weekends. Again, it would have a direct impact on small business billing cycles, fixed income travel plans dealing with their daily requirements for the Postal Service and other issues. And with Senator Levin stepping down, he had passed out a request to the state legislators. Senator Casperson heard that call. He forwarded out a request to all his constituent communities to let their voices be known one way or another about how they felt on this issue. And that's how it ended up before the commission this evening. So memorializing it is their term of art that captures the mood of this commission so that it can be sent forward to the Postal Service.
Thank you.
Commissioner Baldini.
I happened to work on this issue in a previous position with Congressman Stupak for years, and the data is quite significant, even though the postal people will suggest otherwise. It will delay our mail. I think we will have, it could impact significantly the Saturday mail and impact some of the businesses. And I think it's a good idea that we take a stand as a city to say, hey, this is not will have a negative impact on us.
Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to support Resolution 192 and send it to Senator Casperson, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Now is the time for comments from the commissioners. We'll start with Commissioner Cambenzi.
All right, since we've been talking about snow removal tonight with our Parking and Traffic Advisory Committee, there is one last thing I guess I'd like to remind citizens, and that is if you live by a fire hydrant, that's another thing that you can do that's extremely helpful to our fire department when they have to go out, and it's a matter of minutes that they have to make sure the water's running, hook up their hoses, being able to get to the fire hydrants. So if you do live by one and you can keep it shoveled out this winter, it might be you, it might be your neighbor. So it's one thing we can all do to make sure that we stand together as a community. I'd like to thank the Sister City Committee for giving their presentation. Again, I feel this is going to be a positive thing, and look forward to seeing what happens and what they do. And the last thing, maybe the mayor could comment on this. You know, we lost one of our transportation subcommittee members, Fred Stonehouse, when he was termed out. And I guess this is something that I have been approached in the last 2 weeks by some not so happy citizens that live off of Wright Street, you know, asking if we're going to keep working on it, because I think a lot of people think it's a done deal. You know, now that we have the routes in place, you know, we're not going to continue to work on this. So it's something that I think residents are still upset about. I think we should continue to move forward, and I guess I'm still interested in serving on it, and we do have one vacancy should we continue it. So I think that's something I'd like to see us I guess, fill in the future and start working with our neighbors in the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
My only comment is on the closer at Lakeshore. I live on Lakeshore, so I'm happy to see the city's taking initiative before we have another problem. Like, if you remember when the dam broke years ago on 510 there and washed out the city. So I think it's good that we're catching it before it really becomes a problem. So, I mean, I'm not happy about Lakeshore closing either. I love driving out to Presque Isle and the lake and everything else, but I think when it's all said and done, it's going to be a lot nicer situation, a better road and better access and everything else. So I think we're moving in the right direction to catch it before it really becomes a big problem. So congrats to I'm glad the city's working on this to catch it before it really becomes a big problem. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Commissioner Campana?
I just want to appreciate the two presentations we had tonight. I think they were both informative and very well done, and showed a lot of good things that are happening with their committees. Very happy to get the bike designation, the mountain bike designation. That speaks well for Marquette. Makes Marquette, again, one of the better places to be living. And lastly, and I hate to even say this, but the point about the row club and that there's a conflict of interest. I mean, it's been pointed out at least 2, 3, maybe 4 times that I do not have a conflict. I do not have a financial interest. Legally and ethically, there is no conflict. Why these people insist that there is, I do not understand. Maybe they do not hear well, but they have to get it. I mean, this just is representative of the way they think. You know, they just refuse to accept fact. So, you know, I mean, it doesn't bother me, but it insults me in a way that they think that I'm influenced, and this is not the case. So, thank you, sir.
Welcome. Commissioner Reynolds.
The only thing I'm going to save this evening is that I had the opportunity to go with Mayor Coyne and Chief Belt and the firefighters in the Christmas truck with in the Christmas parade with my daughter Rena and my husband Anthony. And my daughter Rena is the happiest child there has been. She was so great and listened so well and had so much fun. I thank you so much, Mayor Coyne, for letting us do that, because you made Rena's. She's been so good for Santa. She's been so good for me. And it's fabulous. So we had a great time, and I really appreciate it. And it was great. It was wonderful and great. The DDA does such a great job of throwing that, and it was well attended, and it was really nice. And it was really warm because they had those little hand warmer things, and I was not freezing to death, even though it was only like 15. So thanks again.
Well, thank you, and I hope you feel better. Commissioner Baldini?
Thank you. I look forward to our committee on recruiting, or not recruiting, but making recommendations as to what we can do to publicize it. I mean, tonight we had a couple of very good presentations where it showed citizen participation. And I think, for example, the Traffic Parking Advisory Committee, the Planning Commission, these are going to be very, very critical committees for us as a city moving forward in the next couple of years with all of the other great opportunities we have here. And so I think I look forward to this and getting our report together for the commission to look at. It's interesting that Commissioner has to address the issue of conflict. As I've always been told, a conflict of interest is one where I personally stand to benefit. And in past positions, I've had to raise that issue considerably in situations. And I often think about if a conflict of interest is knowing someone, there would be a number of municipalities in the state of Michigan that would not be able to function when you think about all the relationships in the small towns and everything else that goes on. So I know it's easy for me to articulate it because somebody's not here accusing me of it right now, but I think it's the law says if you stand to make private financial, then it is, but otherwise it's not, and I think we just have to say, okay, fine, thank you, and move on. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Connolly?
A couple of positive comments. I want to thank those who brought us Tuba Christmas on Sunday. It was really a lot of fun, well attended, and I appreciate the cold fingers of the musicians and the time that they put in to bring us really great entertainment. I hope that they're willing to do this in future years. We really had a lot of fun going to it. Another thing is we talk about committees and appoint more. It reminded me, and I had heard some questions about something called boot camp for the committee people. And actually, it's an introduction to things that we who have been on committees have needed to know about some state laws that require it, and to really support public input into that and make sure that we all comply with those requirements and things that we want to do to keep the public in touch with our committees and our governing process. So we could find a different name for it, but I'd like to remind those that do sign up for our committees that there is the Clerk Blue and Ron Keefe, our attorney, and our manager, Bill Vila, do a great job, and they keep it short, concise, and it's very informative. And for those who are a chair of these committees, the introduction for chairman and how to run a meeting was well received, Dave, and thank you for that. And I don't want that to be swept away and say, oh, it's boot camp, it's hard, it's bad. It really is a good thing. I found it useful in my membership and chairmanship of the Harbor Advisory Committee. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you. And you've been there and done that, so I mean, that is helpful.
I have.
Okay. I have a couple comments. In follow-up to the parade, the DDA just did a great job organizing it, and particularly it was an opportunity for me to get to know a bunch of firemen and policemen who kind of supervised this, and again, what quality people and very professional people they are. It was very impressive. I do have one problem with the parade. At the end, Santa and Rena and I had fairy dust, and there were a whole bunch of little girls standing right in front of me, about 10 of them. I said, well, here, you take some fairy dust too. So 10 little girls, and I'm between them and the Christmas tree. And I said, okay, when we count down, throw the fairy dust. So my whole car now is full of fairy dust because I have it all over me. I have it in my gloves and my coat. That was the only negative downside. But as soon as I gave it to him, I thought, oh, this is bad. I can't say enough praises to the group for becoming a ride center from the International Mountain Bike Association, and how rare this is. So this is a great honor for the county and the city and the surroundings because of the Nokamenon network, and just great. And in follow-up to Commissioner Cambenzi's comment, if anyone is interested in serving on the Transportation Committee, they will have the honor of serving with Sarah and me, and it is a challenge. It has been a challenge. So we'd be happy to have you. Just mention it, and we'll, if it's agreeable with the other commissioners, appoint you. And just a reminder, after this meeting, the subcommittee on the Solid Waste Authority is going to meet for a brief meeting to answer a letter which we received from the Solid Waste Authority. Mr. Manager, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Your Honor. Really kind of only 3 tracks tonight. First, I'd like to congratulate Tammy Seloy and Bob Mahaney. They're longstanding supporters or partners of the city. The governor recently chose to serve on Northern's Board of Control, which is good for the city, obviously. It extends people who are very familiar with our interests and our goals into positions with partners that should help facilitate even stronger communication and resolve between us. I wanted to remind everybody that, again, to the mayor's comments at the beginning of the meeting, this is our unusual month. We have back-to-back meetings rather than 2-week separation because of the Christmas and New Year holidays. So the next city commission meeting will be Monday, the next regular meeting, 1 week from tonight. We also have a joint work session with the Brownfield Authority to talk about their Act 381 plan and the financing strategy for the hospital, which I'll touch on here in just a second. And also, we have community office hours this Wednesday at Peter White from 10 to 12 in the conference room on the main floor of the library. And we'll look forward to everybody who might like to stop by and share their views on how we can make Marquette even better. The commission had asked that I start a practice every 2 weeks of sharing updates on what's going on with the hospital. And I think I've shared before, but just as a reminder, we've really kind of broken up the process from the staff side into 3 big tracks. There's one which is kind of working with the brownfield process, the coordination between city staff and city attorney, looking at things like tax tribunals and project management plans and the developers agreements and things like that. And we're going to be hearing more about that Thursday, so I won't preclude that. But that's generally something that's not otherwise public except at work sessions of the City Commission or the Brownfield Authority. But you'll hear more about that. Work is progressing. We're making fast strides towards trying to line up the funding strategy for the hospital so that we can kick off in earnest the beginning part of next year. Road relocation, we were fortunate because we had a traffic study vendor in place, and they're postured to take on all of the road relocation planning that would be associated with the project from our perspective once some of the financial and project management issues have been signed off by the City Commission and the cash starts coming in. The good news is they've already been pre-qualified by the U.S. and the Michigan Departments of Transportation, so they're very familiar with the challenges of building some things on limited U.S. federal highway right-of-way, and they're equally qualified to assist our engineering department in designing some of the road infrastructure that's associated with the project. The last one, which I know is the subject of a lot of speculation with a lot of people I meet on the street, is where are we going to put the service center? And that process kicked off shortly after the MOU was signed. We reached out to partners. I've spoken before on the fact that we're hoping to turn this into some kind of a win-win-win, where if there are other jurisdictions that have some type of facility plans that could be rationalized with our plans, there might be an opportunity for extending the benefit of this project to other jurisdictions. And we're starting now to get feedback from those partners. It includes the Board of Light and Power, the school district, Northern Michigan University, the county, and others who might have similar facility requirements to ours. And staff is putting that together. We hope to have a final list that we can discuss with all of the partners still yet before the Christmas holidays. What we would hope to do would then be to preview that through dialogue with the folks out at the service center, the rest of city staff, the rest of our department heads, to make sure that we can beautify that presentation before we take it out to the public and have the public engaged in their views as the start of this dialogue. What we would hope to do would be to work through all of those processes and bring something to the City Commission in mid-January at the earliest, possibly a little bit later, for some type of recommendation depending on all of the input that we get potentially by February. And if we can pull that off, Kurt's awfully quiet over in the corner, but if we can pull that off in that timeline, it should roughly coincide with when we hope to award the RFP for who the prime contractor would be for the city to accomplish all of these projects. So it's a very aggressive timeline. We're going to be staying true to our commitment to seek all of that public input. We're about the point in time when we're getting ready to start scheduling the town hall meetings, and hopefully we're looking forward to some robust dialogue. This is something that only happens once every 30 or 40 years. To try to give people a sense of what this looked like last time, of course, as a reminder, we put out all of the documents from the previous effort on the city website so folks can see some of the kind of consideration that went into that. We don't expect it'll be that much different, but as with all things it seems here in the city, there's always a plethora of views on what makes the most sense, and we're hopeful to capture all those in whatever recommendation comes forward to the commission. So it's going to be, even though we have some holidays, a busy month for city staff, and hopefully leading up to some really positive and interesting dialogue for the community starting in January. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Seeing nothing.